Hello and welcome to the second video in our series of tutorial videos concerning EFAMA's AI system assessment tool. My name is Franco Luciano and I'm here today with Herbig, chair of EFAMA's AI task force. If you're watching this video, we're going to go a bit more into detail regarding how to use this tool and which are its different functionalities and sections. So without further ado, I would like to ask you, Ulf, if you could maybe provide us with the general concept of what is exactly the AI system assessment tool?
Absolutely, Franco, and thanks everyone for watching. Let me share quickly my screen so that everyone really has a picture to what I'm going to say. The AI system assessment tool has two main levels. The first level is supposed to allow firms to document at a high level those data points that characterize an AI system and/or use case. The level 2, on the other hand, which is linked to the level 1, then allows to perform the regulatory assessment with a focus on the EU AI Act. But as we were working through this template with the AI task force, we realized, depending on the use case, you can't often see the EU AI Act as a standalone regulation, because depending on the use case, you may have to consider things like GDPR, MiFIR 2, and DORA. That's obviously not a complete list because it depends on the AI use case, but this is where we as a group stopped and then said these are for us the most relevant. Last but not least, the concept is completed with an AI inventory dashboard, which is ready to print reporting so that everyone who owns and manages this AI system assessment tool can also provide any other internal or external stakeholder with a nice summary of what the AI use cases are in the firm and what their related statuses and risks are.
That's great to know and great to be more familiar with the general concept. But maybe now that you have explained this, could we maybe see how the AI tool works?
Absolutely, totally. So starting with the dashboard, first things first, as mentioned before, it's ready to print, has two different sections. One is the strategic and organizational KPIs, and the second section is the operational control. It's real-time updating on any updates that are done at the level 1 and/or level 2, so that on this tab, you have nothing else than just looking at it. And in case you have the need to share it, you just print to PDF and circulate it with anyone who has an interest in it. The level 1 is one of the bases for the dashboard, of course. It's composed out of different sections of data points. And again, our focus was the most relevant ones to document an AI use case and to do a regulatory assessment. We intentionally left out data points around the economics of AI use cases, for example. So whilst the first data points, they qualify and identify a use case like an ID or entry date, the other 3 data points that follow, they are describing the AI use case and/or system. You may have a situation that you ask yourself, at which granularity should you be documenting this? Well, the tool allows you to be fully flexible. If you stay at the AI system level, you probably have fewer lines, and then you focus on the purpose of the system. If you have the same AI system used for different scenarios, like use cases, then you may have as many lines as you have concrete scenarios. That is fully up to you. Generally, when you think of the next data points like use case, owner, and audience, that would obviously differ if you have an AI system that supports multiple different use cases, because depending on the use case, of course, the owner and the audience may be different. Then we have input and output data as well as data sensitivity. Now here we have data points that already impact potential interdependencies to other regulations. If you think of the use of personal data in an AI system, then it's suddenly no longer just the EU AI Act, but maybe also GDPR that you have to consider. It also impacts the data sensitivity because it may not just be internal data, but also external or licensable data. Then we have an expert in the loop data point, whereby you can qualify whether or not the end user of the output from the AI system is an actual expert or is a regular employee who has to just simply trust the output received. Then we have a lot of technical data points that most likely come from the IT department, like what's the type, what's the system connection, the technology, and who's the provider. In particular, when it comes to the provider, some of our members have already been so creative to say, hey, we cannot just use this tool for our internal documentation purposes of AI systems, but also when we work together with third-party providers who offer AI systems. So we would send them this level 1 and ask them to fill it out for the AI system that they license to us. Then we have the general status data points, where you can track what is the status, the deployment, the latest release, and the next assessment. We added a data point like next assessment because we are conscious of the fact that this is probably an evolving topic, like an AI system. So therefore, on a recurring basis, you may want to do an audit whether it's still fit for purpose, provides the quality that you expect, etc., etc. And last but not least, we have our link to the level 2 because we have internal checks, the EU AI Act check, GDPR, MiFID II, and DORA. The risk level is not an automatic data point because we wanted to leave it to the individual users of the tool to do the definite judgment on what level of risk according to the AI Act it has. Very briefly on the level 2. The level 2, although quite comprehensive and quite detailed, is the regulatory framework listing all the different aspects under the EU AI Act as a first regulation to perform the assessment of whether or not your system, for example, is a system according to the EU AI Act with unacceptable risk or high risk. So for those who may get shocked by the length of all these questions, you can actually stop here already after the high risk and unacceptable risk assessment if your tool does not fulfill any of the criteria, because the EU AI Act focuses predominantly on these two types of categories. Followed by the EU, or after the EU AI Act section, we have our GDPR, MiFID II, and DORA section, where you can then also perform the regulatory assessment under these three regulatory frameworks. They are not as detailed, we have to say, as the ones from the EU AI Act, so you may want to complement them with your own questions in your own version. The status is what you see here when it comes to the actual assessment. So in each section, you have NA done, in progress, and to be done. This status is exactly what is reflected in the level 1. And to conclude on the explanation, the one difference between level 1 and level 2 you have to consider is that your use cases are the lines, and these lines turn into the columns of the level 2.
Thank you very much, Ulf, and thank you for everybody who's listening. So this concludes the second video in our series, and I strongly encourage people who are interested in learning more about how the tool can be customized to fit with the different needs and goals that your company firm may have, to listen to the next video in our series. Thank you so much.
Thank you.